Hello and welcome back to the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast with me, your host Ryan, the founder of Rocket SaaS. And today, Jamie and I are hungover. Yes, I'm not afraid to admit we had our Halloween party last night. We had 15 Rocket SaaS skeletons, zombies. We went to drag queen bingo and had a great time. If you don't know what drag queen bingo is, Google it. I'm not describing it. We had a lot of fun.
Yep.
And there is a seamless link as to the hangover to this episode. Partly the reason why I got so pissed last night is because I'm in a good mood. I'm celebrating. Rocket SaaS is absolutely flying at the moment. We are getting more leads than ever. So we wanted to make this podcast episode to explain to you what we have done differently that's resulted in us having a huge uptick in leads so that you can take inspiration. You can apply the same things to your brand. So to give you context, Rocket SaaS on average, this year, we get 8 SQLs per month. But the last 2 months in a row, we've tipped over 20 leads per month. And these SQLs are chunky deals. Our customer lifetime value is £60,000. So 20 SQLs, which is someone filling out a form on the website or sending me a DM saying, we're interested in working with you, and they're qualified. We know that they've got the budget and the headcount to work with us. So 20 deals a month, 20 times £60,000 is 1.2 million. And that's AR, that's recurring revenue as well. So every month we're adding 1.2 million in ARR into the which is incredible. That's why I got really pissed. Worthwhile. And the mastermind behind this is my man Jamie. So
a lot of people work on it too.
I've done some work with that. I've just been boozing. I've been helping with this and everyone else at the Rocket SaaS team. So we thought we would make this episode to talk about what have we done differently, what's resulted in this uptick, and how can you apply that to your business. So when people are filling out the form, one thing that we always say to any business is when you have the book a demo form, the contact us form, whatever the main form is, you have a field that says, how did you hear about us? That's really strong attribution because it just tells you the truth from their mouth or their fingers on the keyboard in terms of where they heard of you.
Not just the tech.
Not just the tech. This can be like last attribution touch, which could be, they Googled our company name, but they probably Googled your company name because they've been through a whole massive journey in the last few months. But the how they heard of you is often a really telling field. And it shouldn't be a drop down field either. It should be a free text field so they can enter whatever they want. And that can be really interesting. So anyway, the most common thing that people enter into the field is LinkedIn. For sure. And obviously a lot of people listening to this podcast are in the B2B space. So LinkedIn is going to be the main one for them. So that's where we've had the biggest uptick. Podcasts have been very frequently entered as well. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But LinkedIn has been the main uptick. So when people enter LinkedIn into the box, and we can go through the attribution stuff, it's either going to be LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn organic from the company page, or my personal brand, which is very active on LinkedIn. I'm going to delete number 2. It's very unlikely to be the LinkedIn organic company page because it's just not a lead generating channel for hardly any B2B business unless you've got a really huge brand. It's going to be the ads as the main thing, my personal brand, and then also thought leader ads, which is my personal brand being boosted by ads. So let's start with the main one, which is going to be LinkedIn company ads. So what have we done differently in the last quarter that's seen this massive uptick in SQLs, would you say, Jamie?
Yeah. So I think we've done quite a lot of work, particularly in the last kind of like 3 to 4 months on LinkedIn in particular. I think going back to that point you made about like the self-reported attribution field, what we're seeing is about 60 to 70% of the leads come from LinkedIn. They reference LinkedIn in that free text field, which is a really strong indicator for us that what we're doing on LinkedIn is working, which is great. I think the biggest things that I would kind of like point to as the biggest drivers of the performance increase, there's been a couple of things in particular. So first of all, we changed our targeting quite drastically in around August time. It would have been that we made the full switch. We used to use LinkedIn's native targeting filters, in like the cold layer of our ads. So that the audience layer going to like a broader audience, like who might not have visited our website before, engaged with our ads, people who might have even heard us before.
So the standard LinkedIn fields of just, I think we would, in the industry, we'd say software companies or internet companies,
software
headcount from, well, I think it was, I don't know, like 10 to 50 headcount in the UK, and job titles being like marketing manager or founder. So that the things most of you are familiar with is those are the standard fields. And yeah, for years we've been running ads to that audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me what you changed.
Which worked fine. Yeah. To be fair, it was solid targeting. Like it was our kind of relatively close profile of who we'd want to work with. But what we kind of wanted to get more towards was eliminating any waste from that targeting. So with LinkedIn's, we spoke about this before on the pod, with LinkedIn's targeting filters, you do have a bit of a black box where sometimes people misclassify themselves. So someone who's classified themselves as software might not be software, like you're reaching people who are not the ideal buyer. That can obviously have a knock-on effect in terms of like your leader metrics, like click-through rate, engagement rate, and then ultimately things like conversions on the back end. You're reaching less relevant people sometimes.
Yeah,
we wanted to eliminate that.
Big problem. I think it's an even bigger problem for SaaS companies than it is for an agency like ours. So yeah, so we target companies that classify themselves as software companies, and you get a lot of like IT hardware companies wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
And then going to be wasting budget kind of targeting those people. And yeah, it is hard with targeting. Like people describe themselves in different ways, particularly in tech. So for example, if you're like HR tech, you often describe yourself as software when actually they tag themselves as HR, human resources tech. It's just confusing as to where people live.
Yeah. So the way that we got around that was by using a tool called Clay. And we actually did a webinar on this a few weeks ago as well. So do go check that out as well. But what we did essentially was we did a closed won analysis. So we looked at all of the deals that we'd won over the last kind of year, 2 years. And we looked at what types of companies we'd won, what they classified themselves as, breaking it down by like company size, industry, et cetera, et cetera. And what we did is we took that analysis and we basically took what we identified as our kind of best fit customer, and we fed that into Clay. And what we wanted to do was build an initial list in Clay. So for anyone who hasn't used Clay before, one of the nicest things about Clay is that it's, when you have a license, it is free to build the initial account list, to build a list of companies. So you can use their filters to build a list of companies for free once you actually have a license.
Similar to like Apollo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Similar to like Apollo. So you can build that account list out, which is great. And we built ours based on what we knew as our kind of ideal customer. But what we wanted to do from there to take it a level further, and this is where actually it's had the biggest impact, is we've used Clay to verify each company on that list. So that's a list of around 15,000 companies roughly. So about of those 15,000 companies that we could legitimately serve because they match our profile of buyer, we had Clay enrich each individual company and check that they actually were a software company.
Right. So the thing you described earlier is similar to Apollo. I was going to say it's the same problem as LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You're just using very similar filters.
Yeah.
But the magic with Clay, the difference with Clay is that it can then, so how does it verify? Is it where it sends the little AI bot to everyone's website?
Yeah, exactly. So it sends like a little, think about it like that, little AI bot to kind of check the website, check the descriptions, find and verify that actually this is a software business.
Yeah. So is it looking, so it's looking for words like platform.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of SaaS companies don't use the word SaaS on their website. They don't be like, we are a SaaS platform, but they will use words like platform, solution, features. So those are the little like keywords that we look out for.
Yeah. And so what that's done is it's basically verified for us that the list is an accurate list of software businesses that we could work with, which completely eliminates like 90% of the waste that might have come otherwise, which is great. So now what we've got is we use that, we've enriched all those companies, we've checked them, we've vetted them. It's not going to be like 100%, but it's going to be pretty close, which is great. Now we've got that company list. We've now uploaded that into LinkedIn. And to be honest, we expected like a lift in performance because it just cuts the waste. We did expect a lift. But when we uploaded the company list into LinkedIn and then added that company list to our campaigns to be the main targeting, what we saw was a dramatic lift. Like from the start, within like a week or 2 weeks, and like if anyone else goes through this exercise, like look out for this. What we saw was the leading metrics, so the in-platform metrics, so things like click-through rate, dwell time, engagement rate, all the things that are indicating that the ads are working, they dramatically increased, like almost doubling, like kind of like in a week or two. So that was really encouraging straight away.
And you think that was purely because the people that were seeing the ads, it was more relevant to them?
Yes.
Because we'll perhaps get onto this in a minute, but it's also important to note that these weren't just ads saying, Rocket SaaS are a great marketing agency, click here now, because not everyone's in market to buy a marketing agency, to work with a marketing agency. It was like thought leadership stuff, like blogs and guides and videos and even clips of this podcast that you're listening or watching to now. So therefore the content we were creating, because it was top of funnel thought leadership, we're hitting the people that are interested in it, i.e. SaaS founders, SaaS marketers. Whereas if we were showing our content to people that work at IT hardware companies, they're not going to engage with it. And that's, as Jamie describes, it's just kind of waste, which does have an impact on the whole campaign.
Exactly. So then we started to see those things increase. It means we're hitting we're also increasing our reach with a relevant audience. So like we're just hitting more and more relevant people. So that was really interesting. So in the first couple of weeks, and we all started kind of noticing that, and we're starting to think, well, this is looking like it's going to work quite well for us. We then started to scale some new ads into the campaigns, which made a big difference. We had some really strong, we've always had strong messaging at Rocket SaaS because we know exactly who we're for and we know what our offer is. But we basically scaled up some new ads. A lot of variety went into those campaigns. And then with the new targeting, plus a new set of ads that were really refreshed, great messaging, started to see we're seeing the metrics lift. And then on the back end in September, that's when we started to see obviously like we mentioned on the self-reported attribution field in particular, you're just seeing every kind of day, we're seeing leads come through, LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn ads, saw this ad, blah, 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 blah. And it keeps going. And so what we've seen is, like I said, of all of these we're kind of getting, nearly 60% roughly are directly mentioning LinkedIn ads in that self-reported attribution field, which is it's very important that we have the self-reported attribution field because we run a demand gen strategy. So we're not necessarily like gating our information and stuff. So we're not going to be getting from our strategy, we're not going to be getting loads of like last touch attribution leads saying this person clicked on this ad, went to this page and then converted. So a lot of them leads actually in HubSpot are going to be coming up as like direct, Google, etc. But then you look right next to it in HubSpot and you can see, how did you hear about us? LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn.
Nice. All right. So that was the biggest thing that we did around targeting.
That was huge.
Targets. That was a big thing. Anything else you want to mention about LinkedIn, whether it's ad creatives, content?
We did a few bits in terms of particularly restructuring. So we restructured the overall campaigns and kind of what our campaign structure looked like. And the biggest test that we run, which has been really interesting so far, has been, so we previously used to run all of our kind of like product messaging. So like we're a service business, so obviously it's more like services messaging. But for a SaaS audience, I'll talk about product messaging. Our product messaging is talking about what we do, what we offer, all of those things.
To bottom of the funnel.
Bottom of the funnel stuff.
So not like book a demo.
No.
That's very bottom of funnel.
Yeah.
You mean
our value prop.
Okay, slightly above the bottom of the funnel. Yeah. Our features, benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Features, benefits, like what we offer, kind of our value
screenshots of the products.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah. Okay.
So that sort of messaging we used to reserve just for our retargeting audience, which at the phase of growth we was at in previous times made a lot of sense, because what you're trying to do is you're essentially, with a more limited budget, you're reserving your product information for a warmer audience. And you're trying to get more people into the remarketing layer with more top of funnel assets and messaging. Quite logical. We've reached a stage where we're investing more and we have more budget to play with in LinkedIn. And we're kind of starting to scale up LinkedIn, and we've moved our product messaging into the cold layer of ads. And that was something we wanted to test, because our sort of like hypothesis was, if we moved this messaging up, particularly as it was performing really well, we knew that when people interacted with it, it did tend to drive some sort of action. If we moved that up into the cold layer, because we have increased our kind of budget, we've increased our scale. If we get that messaging in front of more buyers, will we see more results on the back end in terms of people coming to us, more direct attribution leads from that type of messaging? And all of the signals so far have suggested that that's made a real big impact.
So let's go through that, because that does kind of contradict what I kind of learned about LinkedIn ads, certainly things that I and we have maybe said on the podcast before. And I think I've written a whole guide on how to do LinkedIn retargeting ads. And yeah, that a lot of the kind of guidance, and yeah, some of the guidance that we've given is in the cold layer, which is serving ads to people that have never heard of your brand before. It should more be top of funnel educational things, like guides, videos, blogs, podcasts, not really having a call to action, not asking for a demo or a sales call, just to maximize engagement. Because those ads, they don't appear like ads. It's not like you're trying to sell something. You're trying to give away helpful advice and guidance. That's why you get lots of clicks and engagement. And then once you've built up, say, I don't know, 1,000 people that have engaged with those helpful guides and videos and things, you can then retarget them. Boom, that's where you introduce your solution. Your solution solves the same problem that they were learning about and the thing at the top of the funnel that they were consuming previously. And that's the funnel that you flow people through. And that's logical. That makes sense to me. Most businesses are not even doing that. They're just doing bottom of funnel ads to everybody. But you're now saying that we've started actually showing a cold audience our ads that are towards the bottom of the funnel. In our case, being an agency, just talking about our services and what we do. In a B2B SaaS example, it would be features, benefits. And so you're saying that we moved those ads to the cold audience. And and it's had a big impact, a positive impact, but why do you think it's had a positive impact?
So I would agree with what you said in terms of like the model that you kind of was just outlining is quite logical. Like, and especially when you're more constrained, when you're kind of just getting started with LinkedIn, or you haven't really done much LinkedIn ads before. So you haven't got, maybe you're not investing like as much as we are right now. And you haven't scaled your program out and kind of nailed it yet.
What are we investing?
What are we investing right now? So we spend...
I should probably know this.
So we spend roughly about $5,500, $6,000 on LinkedIn a month.
Right.
So it's a nice kind of like solid budget. But like, say you're kind of just getting started below that kind of figure, there is a lot of logic to starting with kind of a cold layer that funnels people into remarketing, identifying the most warm prospects on LinkedIn with that remarketing audience and trying to convert those people. It's not one size fits all, but that's a very logical funnel to build. And that's where a lot of people would start, especially if you've got good website traffic already. So that was kind of what we was doing, and it's working well for the business. Like, we were growing, like it was working well. What I saw was, and to be honest, it was kind of inspired by what I'd previously seen at Cognizant as well when I was working there, was they used to do top of funnel, kind of like cold, in the same way that Rocket SaaS was, educational, engage people, funnel them down to remarketing, then serve the product messaging. That is, I agree, like a very logical thing to do. But what the big unlock for a Cognizant that I saw at one point was when we started to get the product messaging into the cold layer. And because particularly as we could cover a lot of our remarketing audience very easily with the budget we had, which is a similar thing for Rocket SaaS now, testing, if we lift the product messaging into the cold layer, are we actually going to attract more buyers in terms of educating them about what we do? Especially if we've got really good messaging, right? We've got really good messaging, a really good offer, a really good positioning. If we get out in front of more buyers, will we see a lift? We're just testing it, which is what we've done. And all the indicators so far suggest that that's working. So the last touch attribution leads that we get, most of them in the last month or two have actually come from that cold layer, that product layer.
But why do you think that is?
Because we've got a really strong offer that resonates with the target list that we have built into Clay, and getting that in front of more people has actually yielded some positive results. And we see that as well in, like, when I talk to you and you mention about the ads that people mention to you about who they've spoken to. I see that in the last touch attribution that we get from LinkedIn. I'm seeing like a trend coming from that campaign. I can access that information in HubSpot. And then also in a self-reported attribution field when they reference it as well. And then just in general with the ads in LinkedIn, how they're performing.
So what I'm hearing then is that the traditional model that I just described earlier of showing top of funnel and then retargeting to introduce your
still very valid.
It's still very, very valid, and that's still the right thing to do. However, there's a decent chunk of the market, a small chunk, but a decent chunk, where you don't have to be so clever in terms of having a funnel and giving them educational content and retarget them. Some people are just ready. Some people are just looking for your feature, your benefit. They're in market. Maybe they've never heard of you before, but they've been consuming your competitors' content and they'll be thinking of working with them for a while. The pain point's big, and they do just see your bottom of the funnel ad that goes, this is a great feature. And they're like, okay, well, I happen to be in market for that right now. I'm going to click on it.
Yeah.
I don't have to read 10 blogs before I get funneled to your content.
Exactly. So we do a mix. We do a mix of
and if you only did the funnel thing, you could actually miss out on deals, because if someone's like gonna make a decision to, book a demo and get things moving like this week, and you you sort of delay the journey by hitting them with top of funnel, retargeting them to case studies, and then a few weeks later retargeting them to the bottom of the funnel. It's too late. They've already gone with the competitor. So actually, if you throw it all at the same time, you're kind of best of both worlds kind of thing. Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to describe it. Like, I think we do a nice healthy mix now, and it works for us because we've got a decent amount of budget to play with. We have not a huge audience. We've got a tight ICP that we can afford to reach. And yeah, I think in general, like even if like these sorts of rules around the funnels you build, they are helpful starting points, but every business is different. Like you look at like a Monday.com, like they're not scared to promote their product to a cold audience for good reason, because they've got 2 million, 3 million in budget. So they just want to get the product in front of as many people as possible. And it's a broad appeal product. So just in general, I think that's worth testing if you feel like you've got the scale and the ability to do that.
Yeah, nice. And then the other thing that I've noticed is we've given you more ads. So Jamie's not so much part of the creative design team, but we've given you just a higher volume of ads. And I know that you're not a believer in just chucking out loads of ads if you've got a limited budget. But I know a lot of companies, particularly in the B2B SaaS space, that just don't refresh their ads fast enough. They just run the same book a demo ad for months and months. But we are constantly just hope. Whereas we're constantly creating new ads, trying new messaging. And we'll move on to content now. I think the amount of content that we're creating and that we're investing more into content is just fueling those ads as well. So one piece of content investment, as an example, is this very podcast that you're watching or listening to now. Is that it's been a great lead driver for us. I mentioned that field that people enter when they inquire to work with Rocket SaaS. They mention the podcast. A lot of people do, but maybe like 30% of people mention the podcast now. So we have sort of a no-brainer really decided to invest more in the podcast. So how do we invest more into the podcast? We couldn't increase the frequency. We already do it once a week. I didn't want to increase that, but we invested in basically coming to the studio more often. So most of my episodes used to be just me in my spare bedroom, and they used to be audio only. Whereas now we're doing more episodes in this lovely London Bridge studio, which is obviously a financial investment. But what that brings is repurposed content. So we're recording these on super HD cameras, and we're going to be creating video clips. We got a really good process creating these video clips. From each episode, we get about 5 different clips, and then we share them on LinkedIn, and we boost them with ads, thought leader ads and normal LinkedIn ads. And they just look like really high quality. I think lots of people share video clips of like Zoom podcasts or Zoom interviews or whatever, and I don't know, I just kind of scroll past them. I'm just like another close up of someone's nostrils, I'm just whatever. But when you see a professional looking podcast studio, it just kind of stops the scroll a little bit, and it makes you think, well, these guys, I think you just look at it and go, well, these people, they probably know what they're talking about because they're on a podcast. It looks nice, as opposed to some bloke's nostrils on Zoom kind of thing. So I don't know. That's what I think about investing in quality content. And it's interesting that most businesses are under investing in content. They're spending far less on content than they used to, obviously because of AI. And what's that result in? It's the result in a load of crap, generic, the content, the slop. Whereas we obviously do use AI to support our content creation, but we are actually investing more than ever in content creation, and this podcast is a big part of that, and that's had a definite contributing factor into the uplift in leads from the podcast alone, but also the fact that it's boosted the ads. It's just made the ads so much better because we're a podcast clip is definitely a top of funnel play, and it's just given us more content to share. And each week it's different video clips. So it's just really fueling that layer. And obviously, it's the podcast's great because it's not just resulting in people coming to the website, it's resulting in people subscribing to the podcast and then signing up to the SaaS Marketing Weekly newsletter and just getting in the funnel and just sort of seeing us everywhere. Even hearing us in their ears. So so that's been a really big investment as well. And then another one is my personal brand. So previously I kind of lent too heavily on purely top of funnel content. I wanted on LinkedIn, I wanted to be like the helpful SaaS marketing guy, where every day I would post a SaaS marketing tip or a SaaS marketing campaign idea. And I was just constantly doing that. And I think I built a half decent following.
Which definitely helped, to be fair. It's got
it's
1,000 followers.
It's definitely helped. And it always brought in a nice steady trickle of leads. Yeah. But now it's bringing in a much heavier trickle of leads coming in. And it is because I'm now, it sounds kind of obvious and I'm a bit embarrassed to sort of say it in a way, is that I'm now just telling people what we do as an agency. So I don't kind of flood it and annoy people, but every 2 weeks I will make a post about just promoting the agency, a shameless plug, just saying, we're a great agency for B2B SaaS businesses. This is why. For the same price as hiring an in-house marketer, you get a whole team of 7 people like me and Jamie, to master your strategy, and you get a delivery team with it. It's a no-brainer, blah, blah. Those sorts of just, bottom of funnel messages. Post those every 2 weeks. And then the beauty of LinkedIn Thought Leader ads, which we talked about a lot on this podcast already, relatively new thing, been around for like a year and a half, maybe something like that. It's great that my posts for the bottom of the funnel can now be boosted to the people that we want to see them. And that's had a big impact as well, actually. I've had numerous sales calls where people have actually said, the reason I booked a call is because I saw you did this specific post where you compared spending £50,000 on an in-house marketer, but Rocket SaaS is roughly the same, and we get all of you guys. I really like that post. That's why I'm speaking to you. Yeah. So that's even better attribution. People are saying it to me. This is why I'm on the call with you. Yeah. So my personal brand, I know most people that listen to this podcast or watch this podcast probably aren't doing anything with their personal brand, or doing very, very little. So my advice isn't just to do a bottom of the funnel post every 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it has to be supported with all of the other top of funnel content that you do. But yeah, I've said it before many times in this podcast, personal branding is more powerful than ever right now. I think particularly in the AI world, it will just help you stand out against a lot of the sloppy content that's going out there, and AI can't take your personality, your story away from you. So that's something that I want to invest more in, is just me and the story of the business, that something that kind of these AI faceless agencies can't kind of replicate. So that's been a big uptick, the old personal brand.
Yeah, I think that all comes back to as well, like when you're talking about investment in content and how the podcast has kind of improved in quality, and the investment we put in has kind of helped drive everything else. So that's a good example when you're talking about investing in this podcast, in the studio, which I think a lot of, like, if you're like a normal market employee in a SaaS business, trying to get budget for something like this can be really difficult a lot of the time, for getting like investment in like a studio. But this is something so worth fighting for. Investment in content can really offset the natural response, which is like, let's just pour more money into ads. If you get better content, it can make the ads work harder, and it can actually, and again, that's as a business effect where like CAC comes down because like your actual content's working out, so you don't need to spend as much on ads, and you can kind of bring the costs down. All that stuff really matters. And I think for Rocket SaaS, that the flow you just mapped out, where if we're doing this and we have like really high quality content and clips and stuff that we can use, that then filters into the ads, it filters into the thought leader ads, filters into your personal profile, and then you've got better quality content to share, help scale what you're doing, and we can just get that across all of the various channels, which work really well for us, which in particular is LinkedIn, your personal profile plus the ads.
Yeah, I've really learned that recently, that the pennies kind of dropped for me, where I'm like, if a business is going to scale like fast and consistently, it is a mixture of many things. You can try, like a lot of, I think, CEOs or marketers will be like, oh, let's do this one LinkedIn outbound DM thing, or let's do this one webinar, and how many leads are we going to get off the back of it? And yeah, it might work and you might get a few leads, but it's going to dry up and it's going to run out. Unfortunately, the way to scale a business is to consistently create really high quality content that is pumped by ads. So you've got really good ads backed by really good content, and you've got to have a really good website with really strong messaging and a clear ICP. And it's just all of those things, like constantly churning and being pumped by ads is really kind of how you win. It's not really about, oh, what's that one little campaign that works? It's those campaigns filter into the whole strategy and they have their place. But really it's consistently showing up and creating very strong content that your ICP care about, and make sure you're hitting them with the right ads. And then you can layer on technology like Clay and all these other clever bits of AI tech to just like boost it and help you repurpose it and increase the frequency, the volume, and all those things. But ultimately it does all come down to the fundamentals of great content and messaging.
Yeah, I think that was something that when we was at SaaS Doc a few weeks ago, you were saying that, like, we had a great time at SaaS Doc and met a lot of really interesting people, but I think you said that, like, this seems like there's too much emphasis here from some people on, if you just do this one thing, then it's going to unlock the growth of your business. But ultimately, actually, it's more about what underpins it is a good strategy with good fundamentals, and then the tech enables it.
Yeah, there's so many tech platforms out there. Met so many of them at SaaS Start. Lots of sales tech. I'm seeing sales AI tech, and I was having so many meetings with people, and they're basically just telling me how they're hacking the algorithm, or they're just hacking the we pull data from Apollo and then we can just hack and serve ads to those people. And I just think, yeah, but how long is that really going to last? You know, like there's all these other big players that are going to come in and just like copy that, and then, you know, Apollo's going to turn off its APIs and it doesn't work anymore, and then suddenly that thing that you were banking on is just, you know, it's too tech focused and it's going to just disappear.
Yeah,
that's why, you know, you would always return to the fundamentals of marketing that is not dependent on the latest hack and tech, you know, which is content creation, and hitting the right people with ads and advertising. That's the core of it, and you have to focus there. And I think most people that listen to this podcast are at the startup, early scale up phase. You have to sort out the fundamentals first. That has to be the focus, rather than looking for the latest sort of sneaky tech that gets you around the algorithms and sends the clever outbound message and all those things. You're much better investing in fundamentals. I mean, that's what I've done with my business. And then we employed technical experts like Jamie that layer on that tech. The other thing we're going to talk about is the breakfast event that we did. I think I did a podcast the other day actually where I just spoke in detail about the breakfast event.
so I'm a big contributor.
So I won't go into that into too much detail. You can go back a couple of episodes ago. I talked about that, maybe a lot, I can't remember. And so I won't go into that, but that was a factor. So we walked away from that event with 3 SQLs, which is about 180k in pipeline from that alone. So that was really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think that's an important, like you said, you've got a full episode on it. So I'd encourage everyone, if you want to learn about what we did, go check that out. It was super, super valuable for us. Or mainly from, like, obviously, like, we got some really high value meetings from that, and it's got, like, it's fueled the pipeline, but equally as well, just trying to build a community of marketers. Like, that's like it was a really good first step for us, and that's going to be a really valuable thing for us to build up. But I think for anyone who's considering events, I would seriously consider something like a breakfast event where you can kind of scale it up or scale it down, because events can be quite intimidating, especially if you're not like a huge marketing team, where it can be really difficult to manage. And that, I think, is a really scalable way, the model that we've kind of adopted. I think if a lot of businesses could adopt that and could get results from it. So if you're seeing kind of like diminishing returns from some of your digital stuff, I think that's a really good touch point to look at.
Nice, love it. All right, well, I think that probably rounds it up, unless there's anything else we've missed. Google Ads. We're going to talk about Google Ads, actually. I can quickly go through Google Ads. I've not got too much time here, but I can explain this in my own words, and you can let me know if I'm right. But we've improved our Google Ads, and I was always getting really annoyed with our Google Ads, because we spent, I don't know, like 1,500 quid a month on Google Ads. I know that there's a lot of people that are literally searching for a SaaS marketing agency. So if people are searching SaaS marketing agency, they're clicking on our ads, they're coming onto our website that talks about how great we are as a SaaS marketing agency. I think we've got a brilliant website, brilliant case studies. Like, why are we not getting more leads from it? I was getting quite annoyed with it. And then, yeah, Jamie did some fiddling around with it. And essentially, I think what you did was you just narrowed it right down. So we were going too broad, too many sort of phrase matches that just didn't have that much intent. You know, there was enough exact search matches of people like our perfect keyword, you know, SaaS marketing agency, best SaaS marketing agency London, etc. So I think you just narrowed it down just to be exact. Didn't have a huge search volume, so the budget had to be small, like about £1,000 a month or something like that. But it just made it very, very focused. Leads started to come in, sounds a bit obvious, and then you slowly built it out to be broad, to just exactly how to describe it.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I suppose the token of being a market agency is like a lot of our like internal experts are focused on the clients. So the internal account was kind of like, when I started looking at it recently, was something that was kind of ticking along. It was doing okay, but like we could see that there was definitely things we could improve. And it was like, that was kind of something that was in my remit, particularly moving into the role I'm in now, to look at kind of how can we get this performing as well as it can, basically. And I think for us, kind of like, there's like a lot of historical data in the account. There was a lot of historical campaigns. It felt like there was just a good opportunity to, and this is what I'd kind of recommend for a lot of like smaller businesses, like consolidate down and focus on the fundamentals on Google Ads versus what we've done. We've just consolidated down and we're building out from the fundamentals. So what that means in practice is that we have consolidated down to just exact match to begin with. So a real tight list of keywords with enough volume to actually make a meaningful impact, appearing for only exact match searches. So that basically what that means in layman's terms is, if we're bidding on B2B marketing, SaaS B2B marketing agency, we want to appear for that search. We are appearing for that search or a very, very close variant of it. And we've got a list of keywords that we've broken into different ad groups that we target with specific ads and landing pages that we are targeting. We only appear for those keywords. So we've got very, very tight control on the searches we appear for, which means we can align our ads to it and our landing pages to it. What that's kind of done is basically what we've been trying to do is just figure out what is the absolute cap on the budget and the overall kind of volume of clicks and conversions we can likely get from that exact match campaign, which is what we've been doing. We've only spent roughly, because it's relatively recent work, we've spent roughly, I think around just over £2,000, £2,500, which is very low, like level budgets, and that's certainly not like a lot of money that we've spent on it so far. And what we saw was actually by just focusing down, having really tight control on the keywords, the searches, the landing page experience, the ads, what we've yielded off the back of that investment is around about 240,000 ARR in the pipeline, and we've closed around, because Ryan's very, very, very good in terms of closing the leads he gets. We've closed around 120k in revenue from that £2,000, which is excellent. So we had a really great result to kick that off. Now what we're looking to do is kind of just maximize that exact match campaign, which is limited because there's only so much search volume available. Maximize that as much as possible, and we'll slowly start to expand out and test new things, which we're doing right now. Other match types are a bit broader, but slowly starting from a very controlled environment and gradually building out to scale the account, which is what I'd kind of recommend a lot of people do to get more grip and control on their Google Ads, because I think a lot of people get confused and it can turn into a mess real quick.
Nice. Love it. Well, that is pretty much the main things that we've done to increase Rocket SaaS's SQLs per month to over 20 SQLs per month, which results in 1.2 million in pipeline every single month, which is incredible. So if you would like us to do that for your business, that is exactly what we do. So everything that we do for ourselves in terms of Google Ads, LinkedIn ads, building funnels, creating great content, messaging, positioning, overall strategy, that's what we do for our clients who are a B2B SaaS company. So if you are a B2B SaaS company and you don't have anyone in marketing, or you have just a few people limited in the marketing department and you just need to grow and scale faster, me and Jamie can work with you, develop you a strategy or work with your strategy, and give you the delivery team as well. LinkedIn ads, Google ads, content, website updates, messaging, everything we've basically been through today, we can do for you. If you're interested, go to rocket-saas.io, apply for a free strategy call with myself, or otherwise just tune in next week to the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast. See you next week.